All right, let's dive right in. We're about to unpack 10 ideas that might feel, well, a little uncomfortable. They're the kind of truths we tend to push away, precisely because they're so challenging. But trust me, confronting them isn't about feeling bad. It's about finally breaking free from all those invisible scripts that are quietly running your life. So, let's get into it.
First things first, we have to talk about that voice in your head. You know the one. It's not just some neutral narrator. It's a relentless storyteller. It's constantly spinning these tales about who you are, what you should be afraid of, what you want. And this constant chatter isn't just background noise. It feels like you. It feels like reality itself.
And here's the question that changes everything. What if that narrator, that voice you trust completely, is fundamentally unreliable? What if its stories aren't based on objective truth at all, but on ancient survival instincts, all sorts of cognitive biases, and yeah, just pure illusion? This is the starting point for everything else we're going to talk about.
So, our journey begins inside. We're heading into the landscape of our own minds, where, without even realizing it, we build the very walls that hold us prisoner.
Now this is the first and maybe the most important illusion we fall for. The idea that you are your thoughts, that your anxiety is you, that your judgments are you. But, philosophies from ancient Stoicism to Buddhism have been pointing to a different reality for thousands of years. You aren't the storm of thoughts and feelings. You are the vast, quiet sky that the storm is passing through. The real you is the one who's watching it all happen.
And let's be honest, a huge part of that storm is your inner critic, right? That voice didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was trained by evolution to spot every possible threat, by society to make sure you fit in, and by your own imagination to dream up the worst-case scenario. So the brutal truth here is that most of our suffering isn't coming from the outside world. It's self-inflicted. Real freedom, then, isn't about changing everything around you. It's about dethroning the tyrant inside you.
This idea completely reframes the whole pursuit of happiness. We think we're chasing joy or fulfillment, but from a biological standpoint, your brain is kind of like a junkie just chasing its next fix. It wants those little dopamine hits from something new, from getting a compliment, or from just being comfortable. It's stuck on this neurochemical treadmill, running from pain and towards pleasure, and it's mistaking these little fleeting chemical spikes for real, genuine happiness. It's a biological illusion we're all trapped in.
Okay, so we've looked at the prison we build on the inside. Now let's see how that inner world actually creates the cages of our external lives.
This quote is so important. We love the idea that we're making conscious choices all day long, but the reality? Most of our lives are spent on autopilot. We're just walking down the same mental and behavioral trails our brains carved out years ago. And unless you consciously decide to pick up a shovel and start digging new paths, your future is going to look an awful lot like your past. You're basically living out a program.
And there's a powerful biological reason we stay stuck. It's called homeostasis. Just think of your brain like a thermostat for your life. It is desperately trying to keep everything at a familiar, safe temperature. And here's the crazy part. It doesn't care if a change is good for you, like starting to exercise or learning a new skill. Any change is a threat to the status quo, and your brain will fight tooth and nail to pull you right back to your baseline.
Which leads us to this really tough truth to swallow. When you decide you want to evolve, to build a new habit, think a new way, break an old pattern, your biggest opponent isn't your circumstances, it's you. It's your own internal wiring fighting to drag you back to what's familiar. True change requires a conscious battle against your own biological inertia, and you have to fight it every single day.
So where is this internal battle won or lost? It's in the arena of your attention. Your attention is the most valuable currency you have. Where you choose to spend it literally determines the shape and quality of your mind. If your attention portfolio is, say, 45% endless scrolling and 25% gossip, well, you're compounding mediocrity. The brutal truth isn't just that you are what you eat, you are what you pay attention to. You have to become a ruthless curator of your own mind. Our survival brain is always screaming for comfort because it mistakes comfort for safety. But here's the reality. In the universe, anything that isn't growing is decaying. A life lived entirely inside your comfort zone is a life of slow stagnation. Real growth only ever happens under stress. So that feeling of discomfort, that's not a warning sign to retreat. That's the compass pointing you exactly where you need to go to evolve. All right, for this final section, we're going to zoom all the way out. We're going to confront the biggest, most fundamental truths of them all, the ones that govern our very existence. Every single day, we're drowning in these perfectly curated images of other people's lives, and our brain just accepts these highlight reels as the whole truth. This creates so much envy, but that envy is based on a fundamental lie.
We are comparing our own messy, raw, behind-the-scenes footage to someone else's perfectly edited final movie. The only comparison that's honest, the only one that actually leads to growth, is you today versus you yesterday. That's it.
Now, forget thinking about your life in years. That's way too abstract. Let's get real. Think about it in weeks. The average human life is about 4,000 weeks. That is it. It's a shockingly small, very finite number. And for most of us, hundreds, maybe even thousands of those are already gone. Now, this isn't meant to be depressing. It's meant to be a tool for radical clarity.
Because seeing that number forces you to ask the most important question there is. When you see time as the scarce, precious resource it is, it just strips away all the trivial nonsense. It forces you to focus on what actually matters. So, how are you going to spend the weeks you have left in your account?
And if our time is measured in those 4,000 weeks, where do they actually happen? Well, not in the past. That's just a memory, a ghost. And not in the future. That's a fantasy, a projection that doesn't exist yet. The only point of contact you will ever have with your life, the only place anything ever happens, is right here, right now. And yet, we spend most of our precious moments lost in the ghosts of yesterday or the fantasies of tomorrow.
And this really is the logical conclusion of all of it. We always say, oh, I'll start tomorrow, or I just don't have the time. But radical change is never about finding some big chunk of time in the future. It's about what you choose to do in this one tiny sliver of reality you actually possess, right now, before it vanishes forever.
So, after all these brittle truths, what's the takeaway? This isn't about despair, not at all. It's about empowerment. The path forward is actually pretty clear. It's about learning to observe your thoughts without getting swept away by them. It's about consciously rewiring your habits, bit by bit. It means leaning into discomfort as a signal for growth, truly accepting that your time is limited, and anchoring yourself again and again in the only moment that's real, right now.
And that's where we have to leave it. These truths, they aren't meant to be a final answer. They're a starting line. They're designed to burn away the fog of illusion that holds you back. So now that you can see the cage, the lock, and the key, what you choose to do next, well, that's entirely up to you.